Hey, folks, and welcome back to Glenn and Adrian's Rock Talk. Adrian, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Doing real well. I've been going back to my old Kaleidoscope CDs, which I got into back in the 90s. And the reason I'm looking at them again is because David Lindley, who is this guy right here, recently passed away. David Lindley went on to greater fame later on as a kind of a high-profile session player for a lot of the Mellow Mafia in California in the 70s. Zevon and James Taylor and Jackson Browne especially. Well, Adrian, first of all, I was surprised that you told me that you've never really heard much Kaleidoscope. Is that the case, except for the song Cuckoo?
Yeah, just the song Cuckoo, which was actually sung by someone else, but I'm pretty sure that David Lindley participated in the recording.
Oh, yeah. One good thing about the modern days, you can listen to something even if you don't happen to own it at the moment.
Yeah.
Which is great. So let me show you what I have for Kaleidoscope, just to kind of give a start. This isn't the very, very beginning of David Lindley's career, but it's pretty close to it. This is the first thing of note that he did. And this was the first album, Side Trips. This thing's only 27 minutes long, and it's been called one of the most influential records to come out of 1967. It is highly revered as a psychedelic artifact of the times, but it's a really good record. And in fact, I have to recommend the compilation that I have is called Egyptian Candy. This thing has 18 songs on it. They only made 4 albums, and it's jam-packed. This is definitely a great thing. If you see this, get it. You don't necessarily have to try to track down all the original Kaleidoscopes, because I bet some of them are kind of expensive now.
Oh, probably.
So David Lindley, after Kaleidoscope, he went on to, I'm not sure who his first person was that he worked with.
I know that when Side Trips was released, he also worked with Leonard Cohen on his first album.
As a matter of fact, I just happen to have that album right here.
One thing I remember reading about his childhood was that he got very much into banjo and fiddle. And in fact, there was a local contest where he lived called the Topanga Valley Banjo Fiddle Contest, which he won 5 times during his childhood. And one of those times, he beat Taj Mahal.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
They were to play a version of John Henry.
And I happen to notice that the band he was in with the guy Chris Darrow, who was in Kaleidoscope, the one before that was Dry City Scat Band, and that also includes Richard Green, who's a fiddle player that has shown up. He's worked with Bill Monroe, Jim Kweskin. Matter of fact, I believe that he worked with Peter Rowan on a bunch of things. But anyway, he's a renowned guy too, so that's interesting. At some point, he met Jackson Browne.
Started playing as a regular for Jackson Browne in 1972. I think Kaleidoscope broke up just like a couple of years before that.
That sounds about right. Yeah, I think they went about 66 to 70 or something.
Yeah, they broke up in 1970.
Hey, it's worth noting about Kaleidoscope, everybody in the group played a variety of strange stringed instruments. That was kind of the fun and joy of the group, is that you could find them on any instrument. And it all sounded very exotic, but also had a pop sensibility. Pretty cool stuff. But yeah, then he started with Jackson Browne on For Every Man, which is Browne's second album. And I believe that's 1973.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, so he's playing electric guitar on this one for Take It Easy. But he also does acoustic guitar. Let me see, he was doing lap steel on, slide guitar. This is all just on this record. Electric fiddle. So, 4 different instruments. Why not,
Oh, yeah.
It's very handy to have a guy like that in the session. And from there, he stayed with Jackson for the next several albums. As a matter of fact, I think he stayed with Jackson, period. But I've only got a certain number of Jackson Browne albums. Mine run out at...
I think he was a regular from 72 to 1980, I think.
Yeah, he was. And then he went off and he started his own band, Rayo-X. But at some point, he started working with Jackson Browne again. Mm-hmm. He was just on tour with Jackson very recently, I believe. Oh. So, yeah. So they, it was a lifelong association for them. Mm-hmm. But of course, working with Jackson Browne, you start learning about everybody else that he's worked with. What was that list? You had a list
lots of other people. It's not a complete list, but Linda Ronstadt, Rod Stewart, Warren Zevon, Ry Cooder, Bonnie Raitt, Dolly Parton, James Taylor, Bob Dylan, Springsteen, Joe Walsh, Dan Fogelberg. And that's not a complete list.
Pretty good. Yeah. I have a number of records by several of those artists, but don't happen to have the ones that he played on. But I do have a couple of the Linda Ronstadt's. Heart Like a Wheel, which is only her biggest album.
Yeah, he played on that, I think.
Yeah, he's on here doing all the same. He was doing fiddle a lot for her. Also Prisoner in Disguise, the next album. Also the Trio album with Emmylou and Dolly. He was also on Maria Moldauer. I noticed they misspelled his name in here, though. They called him like Lindley, Lynley. It's like, no, guys, that's not how he spells it. He is on Hawaiian guitar on Any Old Time and probably something else on here. And he's on Dolly Parton's Here You Come Again, big hit in the 70s, 77. James Taylor, In the Pocket. Crosby Nash, Wind on the Water. You know, so really, like all the people that were in Laurel Canyon, you know, essentially, I don't know if he was on a Joni record or not, maybe not, but I mean, maybe he was busy that day, who knows. But a very gifted guy. Oh, and I should also mention there's a couple others here. Bruce Springsteen, This is The Promise, which are outtakes from Darkness on the Edge of Town, Bruce's 1978 album. And yeah, apparently Lindley was there for some of those sessions. And also several Warren Zevon albums. I've only got one that he was actually on here with me, his last one, The Wind, which, by the way, is a spectacular record and a nice send-off for the guy. He was sick and he knew he was going, and so he had a lot of friends come in. But yeah, so he got around. And
he sure did.
And people have probably heard his licks, you know, the things he plays, various riffs and things. Maybe the most famous one is his slide guitar work on Running on Empty, because that's very prominent in that song. That's all him. If you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, it's like the identity of the song practically, aside from the piano part. I've actually got a clip of him from 2017 that his old buddy Leland Sklar, the bass player for JT back in the day, and also for Phil Collins and everybody, that he shared the other day. Of course, he was a very good friend with David Lindley. There's a band called The Immediate Family that Lee Sklar is in, and also Waddy Wachtel, who was also on practically every record I just mentioned, and Jim Keltner, the drummer. These guys all were a unit that played on tons of records in the 70s, like all the Crosby, Stills, Nash stuff, all the JT records, you know, pretty much. Lindley was kind of right in there with them. Like, he's one of those guys that would kind of show up at the same sessions, you know, because he brought something a little special to the table. Would you like to see a little tiny bit of a more recent clip of him?
Oh, sure.
Playing a modified 11-string fretless OUD at the Vanguard Art Center in Sioux City, Iowa.
They commence to knock it down. Well, they shoot you and they cut you, then they knock you down.
All right.
Playing a very rock and roll style on that instrument.
Yeah. Yeah, he really had it.
It wasn't quite designed for it, but there it is.
So the majority of the instruments that Lindley played, somebody was very helpful and put a whole bunch of them in here, and they come up with little. So you got the violin, you got the acoustic guitar, the electric guitar, upright bass, electric bass, banjo, mandolin. A lot of them before had actual, there we go, the hard angel fiddle. Hard anger fiddle? I don't know how to pronounce that.
Fiddle, yeah.
And we've got the bouzouki, the cittern, baglama, gumbu, or yaili tambur, a long-necked lute from Turkey. Charango, ooh, look at that thing! Holy cow! That's kumbus.
Yeah.
That's the ode, short-necked, and I love the way that the neck kind of goes off like it belongs in a Dali painting. You know, it's kind of going off in a weird direction. And of course, the zither, which is kind of related to the auto harp. Oh yeah, and of course, lap steel guitar. And he also played a Hawaiian guitar. Pretty amazing.
I'm surprised I didn't see a sitar in there.
Yeah, you know, I'll bet he did play one.
Yeah. He said he has no idea how many instruments he has or how many he plays.
I mean, pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So essentially, he can pick up anything with strings on it and make it sing, it sounds like. So we just wanted to pay our respects to Mr. Lindley because he's been a very important fixture in popular music, at least for the 70s, the 60s, and the 70s particularly. I can also mention that he went on, he became kind of a musicologist after his band Rayo-X, the second Rayo-X album. Good stuff. It's called Win This Album or something.
Oh, yeah. I think I heard of that. Around 1990, he got less interested in the mainstream music. So I guess I'd like to hear some of the stuff he did since then.
So I went out after he passed. I decided I was going to try to find some things. And one of the things I ordered is David Lindley and El Rayo-X, Win This Record.
Oh, yeah.
And this is, I think, 1982.
Yeah, it looks like it must be around there.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's on Asylum Records, which makes sense. That's also Jackson's label. I believe Jackson Browne was the one that really kind of told him, hey, you should go out, do your own thing. You're so talented. So very kind of conventional sounding, but fun, you know.
Yeah. I read somewhere he used to sometimes pick up these cheap instruments from like Sears or something, but he would make them sound good still.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt he would. El Rayo-X, you know, not too bad. Here.
Sweet Sunny North.
And another thing I found is called the Sweet Sunny North. And this is one he made with Henry Kaiser from San Francisco. They're both kind of musicologists, and this was early 90s. It was 94. I think they actually made 2 CDs for this series. But, you know, it looks like they had a blast. They went around, I think they went to Norway for this, and they had just been to Madagascar, you know, so they made a lot of records that are kind of like this.
All right.
A little bit Peter Gabriel-like.
I like the lyrics.
Yeah. Let's go on to the next one here. Interesting stuff. You know.
I like it.
Yeah. I'm thinking it's got to be fun. So I'm looking forward to listening to that once it arrives. He was an absolute prodigy as a kid, picking up the violin at 3, and then just keep continuing to pick up instruments and making really nice sounds with them. I mean, things that catch your ear and that you remember. You know, he was, and apparently he was a really pleasant guy too, just for what that's worth. And at one point, all of the hippies said he had the longest hair of anybody. Apparently he was a very sweet guy, and it's a real shame to lose these giants, you know, in the business, because who knows if we're going to get more like that in the future. Maybe we will. We should, right? But at the moment, we don't see any. So it's kind of tough to watch him pass. And of course, this is going to be a tough year. And so will next year and the year after that, you know, as we watch all these people kind of move on. But we'd like to just thank David Lindley for his time here on Earth and everything he contributed to the music world. You know, he brought up a lot of spirits with his playing and his personality. By all means, check out Kaleidoscope. So if anybody out there has more facts on David Lindley that you think we'd like to know about, or if there's anything you think we missed that we really should have mentioned, please drop it down below. Let us know. And if you wouldn't mind giving us a like and perhaps subscribe so you can always hear what we're talking about in any given week. We always have fun with it. And with that, I think we're going to bid you farewell for this week, and we'll see you next week.
See you later, folks.
Take care.